She's 9 years old, sitting at the dinner table, and the silence around her feels thick enough to choke on. Her fork scrapes against the plate, too loud in a room where everyone else seems to move with a grace she doesn't possess. Her father's eyes haven't met hers once tonight. Not once. He's animated, though, laughing at something her older sister said about volleyball practice, his whole face lighting up in a way that makes her chest ache. She clears her throat softly, preparing to speak. She'd practiced it earlier in the bathroom mirror, a story about the art project she'd spent 3 days perfecting, the one her teacher said was remarkably creative. But then her mother's hand shoots up, not toward her, but toward her brother, ruffling his hair with a tenderness that looks effortless. "My sweet boy," her mother murmurs, and the words land like stones in still water. The girl closes her mouth. She takes a bite she doesn't taste, chews mechanically, swallows past the tightness in her throat. Under the table, her hands twist together, nails digging into palms. Her sister laughs again. Her father joins in. Her mother serves seconds with a smile. And she sits there, present but unseen, learning the most dangerous lesson a child can learn. My existence is something to be tolerated, not celebrated. She excuses herself quietly. No one notices she's gone. In her room, she presses her back against the door and slides down to the floor, staring at the art project leaning against her desk. She thinks about throwing it away. She thinks about becoming smaller, quieter, less. Maybe then, she won't be so easy to hate. If that scene landed somewhere deep in your gut, if you felt the hollowness of being physically present but emotionally erased, you're not imagining things. The hated child isn't always screamed at. Sometimes, they're just overlooked, dismissed, treated like an inconvenience that appeared uninvited. They watch love flow freely to siblings while they receive the scraps, conditional, withdrawn, or worse, coldly indifferent. Maybe it was the tone your mother used when she said your name, like it left a bitter taste. Maybe it was the way your father's face would harden when you entered a room. Maybe it was being compared endlessly to siblings who seemed to deserve affection simply by breathing, while you had to earn every crumb, and never quite managed to earn enough. And here's the unbearable part. Children are wired to believe their parents. So when a parent can't love them fully, the child doesn't think, "My parent is wounded and incapable." They think, "I am unlovable." So, let us look at the psychology behind this. In attachment theory, we learn that children form internal working models of relationships based on their earliest bonds. When a caregiver is cold, rejecting, or shows preferential love to siblings, the child develops insecure attachment, specifically anxious avoidant or disorganized styles. They simultaneously crave connection and expect rejection. Dr. John Ice Webb's work on childhood emotional neglect reveals something crucial. It's not always what happened to you, sometimes it's what didn't happen. The absence of validation, the lack of curiosity about your inner world, the missing warmth that should have been your birthright. The hated child grows up in perpetual confusion. They watch love being given to others and can't understand why they're excluded. They scan themselves for defects, trying to decode what makes them wrong. This creates rejection sensitivity, a heightened vigilance to any sign of disapproval. The nervous system becomes hardwired to expect rejection and to search for it everywhere, even where it doesn't exist. The child's identity forms around a devastating question: what is wrong with me? And because they're too young to understand adult dysfunction, they answer with brutal simplicity: everything. When a child experiences chronic emotional rejection, their brain doesn't categorize this as just emotional pain. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, becomes hyperactive. Rejection activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. The body floods with cortisol, the stress hormone. When a child lives in chronic emotional threat, their system becomes flooded, literally changing brain architecture. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for emotional regulation and rational thinking, becomes suppressed. Meanwhile, the amygdala stays hyperactive, always scanning for danger. This is why adults who were hated as children often have hair-trigger responses to perceived rejection. Neural pathways form through repetition. Every time a child experiences that familiar sting of being overlooked or dismissed, neural pathways deepen. The brain literally wires itself around unworthiness. These become superhighways, automatic routes the brain travels without conscious thought. The nervous system gets stuck in hypervigilance. Even decades later, even in safe relationships, the body remembers. A slight change in tone can trigger a full system alert. This is trauma, the quieter, insidious kind that rewires a person from the inside out. Fast forward 20 years later, the child is now an adult. They've left the family home, but the wound came with them. In romantic relationships, they become experts at reading microexpressions, analyzing texts for hidden meanings, interpreting silence as confirmation of their worst fears. A partner comes home tired, and they immediately assume they've done something wrong. They re-attracted to emotionally unavailable people without realizing it. Distant love feels familiar. When someone shows up with consistent, healthy love, it feels wrong. Suspicious. Many become people pleasers, contorting themselves into whatever shape they think will make them acceptable. They say yes when they mean no. Boundaries feel impossible, saying no feels synonymous with being abandoned. Others swing toward perfectionism. If they can just achieve enough, maybe they'll finally be worth keeping. But no amount of success touches the wound. Because the wound isn't about capability. It's about inherent lovability. Trust becomes almost impossible. They trust too quickly, starving for connection, or they trust no one, building impenetrable walls. Both extremes come from the same wound, the terror of being vulnerable and rejected again. Their inner dialogue is brutal. You're so stupid. No one actually likes you. You ruin everything. These aren't thoughts, they're internalized voices, echoes of childhood rejection. Beneath all of it, there's bone-deep exhaustion. Because pretending you're okay when you're carrying this wound, that takes everything. Strip away the behaviors and coping mechanisms, and you'll find a single belief pulsing at the center. I am fundamentally defective. There is something inherently wrong with me that makes me unworthy of love. This isn't a thought they think. It's a truth they feel in their bones. It formed before language, before logic. This core belief becomes the lens through which everything is filtered. Positive experiences are flukes. Negative experiences are proof. Someone loves them, they must not really know them yet. Someone leaves. Of course, it was only a matter of time. The hated child grows into an adult who lives in constant waiting for the other shoe to drop, for people to see through the facade, for the truth to finally come out, that they're the wrong kind of person. To survive this wound, the hated child develops masks that protect the raw center. The perfectionist decides that if they're flawless, they can't be rejected. They drive themselves into the ground, but perfection is a moving target. The people pleaser becomes whatever others need them to be. They anticipate needs, manage emotions, anything to avoid being the problem. Being needed feels safer than being wanted. The invisible one learns that the less space they take up, the less they can be hurt. They speak quietly, apologize constantly, make themselves small. The overachiever stacks accomplishments like armor, but it never feels like enough. The wound doesn't care about resumes. The rebel refuses to play the game. If they're going to be hated anyway, they'll control the narrative. They push people away first. The caretaker finds worth in being indispensable. They're drawn to people who need fixing. It's not love they're seeking, it's insurance against abandonment. These masks aren't chosen consciously. Their survival strategies worn so long they feel like identity. But they all serve one purpose: to avoid ever feeling that raw pain of being hated again. The tragedy is that these masks prevent the very thing they're seeking. You can't be truly loved while wearing a disguise. The hated child grows up and finds themselves in the same painful dynamics, over and over. The emotionally distant partner. The friend who takes but never gives. Different people, same feeling, I am not valued. This is repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to recreate familiar pain. The psyche seeks resolution. The brain hopes that this time, the outcome will be different. This time, they'll be chosen. But without conscious healing, the pattern repeats. We're not drawn to what we deserve. We're drawn to what feels like home. And for the hated child, home was a place where love was scarce and acceptance was conditional. But here's the truth the child needs to hear. You were never unlovable. You were unloved. And those are not the same thing. Your parents' inability to love you fully was never about your worth. It was about their capacity, their wounds, their limitations. Children are not born defective. The wrongness you internalized was not yours, it was theirs. Healing starts with this reframing, separating what happened to you from who you are. Reparenting is learning to give yourself what you didn't receive, speaking to your inner child with gentleness, validating dismissed feelings. You become the parent you needed. Earned secure attachment means learning to form healthy bonds through conscious practice, choosing people who can actually see you, recognizing green flags instead of just red ones. Boundaries are essential, learning that no is not cruelty, it's self-respect. That your needs are as legitimate as anyone else's. Emotional awareness means sitting with feelings instead of numbing them. Understanding that emotions are messengers, not threats. Self-compassion is the antidote to internalized shame. Treating yourself with the kindness you'd offer a hurting friend. Breaking generational patterns means deciding the wound stops with you. Building a life where your children will never wonder why they're not enough. The nervous system can be retrained. New neural pathways can form. The body can learn that connection is safe, that vulnerability doesn't always end in pain. This work isn't quick, but it's possible. You are worth the patience it requires. There's something about human existence that feels cosmically unfair. We need others to know ourselves. We come into consciousness through the reflection in our caregiver's eyes. The hated child was given a distorted mirror, one that showed them as wrong, as unworthy. And they believed it because they had no other reference point. But that mirror was broken. The distortion wasn't them, it was the reflection. In some strange way, the hated child becomes an expert in empathy. They can spot pain in others because they've carried so much of their own. They can see the invisible ones because they were invisible. The wound doesn't make the pain beautiful, but it does create a depth of understanding that those who've lived easier lives cannot access. Maybe healing isn't about erasing what happened. Maybe it's about integrating it, acknowledging that you were wounded, that it shaped you, that it gave you both scars and strengths. The wound is part of your story, but it's not the whole story, and you get to write the chapters that come next. She's 36 now, standing in her kitchen on a Sunday morning. Sunlight streams through windows she chose herself, in a home that feels like sanctuary. Her daughter, 7 years old, wild-haired and bright-eyed, is telling her an elaborate story about stuffed animals having a disagreement. She listens, really listens, not just to the words, but to the way her daughter's face lights up, the way her small hands gesture dramatically. When her daughter finishes, she kneels down, meeting her eye to eye. "That was such a creative story," she says, her voice warm and certain. "You have such a wonderful imagination." Her daughter beams, then runs off to play, secure in the knowledge that she was heard, that she matters. She stands slowly, her hands resting on the counter, and feels it, the weight of what she's done. The cycle she's broken. The wound she's refused to pass forward. There's a photo on her fridge. Her at 9. That same age where she learned to make herself small. She looks at it now with something she never thought she'd feel, tenderness. She walks over, touches the photo gently. "I'm sorry no one saw you," she whispers. "But I see you now. I see you, and you were always enough. You were always worthy." Her daughter calls from the other room, asking her to come play. "Coming, baby," she calls back, and her voice is steady, present. She was the hated child. She is the healing woman. She is the mother who changed everything. And that girl sitting alone at the dinner table all those years ago, she finally has what she needed. Someone who sees her. Someone who loves her. Herself. The wound will always be part of her story, but it's no longer the story itself. And that makes all the difference. If this story resonated with you, if you saw yourself in that girl at the dinner table or recognized the masks you've been wearing, I want you to know, you're not alone in this. Healing is possible, and you've already taken the first step by being here, by listening, by allowing yourself to see the wound clearly. If this video helped you understand something about yourself or someone you love, consider subscribing to this channel. We create content that explores the deeper parts of the human experience, the wounds we carry, the patterns we repeat, and the pathways toward healing. Leave a comment below. Share your story if you feel safe doing so. Sometimes just naming the wound begins the healing. Hit the like button if this resonated with you. It helps this message reach others who might be sitting in their own version of that silent dinner table right now, wondering if they'll ever be enough. And please, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is help someone else feel less alone in their pain. You were never the problem. You were always worthy. And your healing matters. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your courage. And thank you for taking this journey toward becoming whole. I'll see you in the next video.